What's up? It's Coach J Pro, and today we have 5 key training tips for beginners using the Reflex Cobra bag. Let's get right into it. You look good. All right, starting with number 1 in no particular order. Tip number 1 starts before you actually start hitting the bag, and that is to identify your goals going in. I know for most of us, using boxing for fitness, it's pretty simple. We want to get a great workout, we want to get a good sweat, have some fun, but I'd encourage you to think a little bit deeper about what you want to get out of the experience. Because based on your unique goals, it's going to affect how you approach using the bag and what you should be conscious of when you're training. Okay, so really quick, let's run through 4 of the most common goals that I come across as a boxing coach. Number 1, maybe you're boxing for weight loss. If you're boxing for weight loss, your number 1 focus is going to be punch volume. Trying to maximize the number of punches that you can throw in that 3-minute round. Maybe the form isn't always going to be perfect, and that's okay. Maybe they're not always going to be the most powerful punches, but really trying to stay busy and maximize the number of punches you can throw in a 3-minute round. Number 2, maybe you're boxing for strength. Maybe you want to build upper body and core strength, or you're toning, you want to develop an athletic physique, in which case when you're training, you're going to focus on explosive punches, and you might want to mix in some other compound exercises within your actual boxing during your 3-minute rounds. Or maybe you're a boxing hobbyist or an athlete, maybe you're even a competitive amateur boxer, in which case it's going to be really important that you focused on a lot of the fundamentals and having proper form when you're training with your bag. Things like always throwing your punches at full extension, keeping your chin tucked at all times, making sure your hands are always coming back to your chin and that you're protected at all times. You're going to want to be conscious of that when you're training and going through your boxing workouts. And the last example I'll use for now, my personal favorite, maybe you're boxing for wellness. Maybe you're boxing to release some tension, release some aggression. Maybe you want to let go of some stress, and you're using boxing as a form of meditation to find your inner calm, your inner balance, and your inner happiness. And if that's the case, you probably shouldn't be overly focused on form or volume. Your main priority should be blocking out all your other thoughts, focusing on your body, your movement, and just trying to channel that inner presence, that inner peace of mind, just being alone with your bag and kind of finding that flow state. No one can tell you what your goals are. It's really up to you to think, understand them, and apply them when you go into training with your bag. Tip number 2 is to adopt the right mindset. I can tell you firsthand as an amateur boxer and as a fitness trainer, your mindset can make or break your experience using the bag. Having the right mindset can make training with the Reflex bag the most fun, magical, growth-oriented experience you've ever had, or a miserable, dreaded chore that you hate doing that your trainer just makes you do once a week. And it's really up to you. So the attitude that you want to have is fail fast. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you have to remember that this bag was developed by professional boxing coaches. It was built for up-and-coming athletes. So if you're using it for fitness purposes, or if you're new to boxing training, you're going to learn pretty quickly that hitting a moving target is a lot harder than it looks. But that's okay, because what you perceive to be failures might just be part of the process of growing and developing boxing skills. What I find most common with people that I'm working with in the gym is they're uncomfortable using the Reflex bag because of how often you actually miss the target when you're training. When you think about boxing training, you think about that satisfying snap of hitting a bag. Maybe you've hit a heavy bag before, but all of a sudden you get in there with a moving target and you start missing, and you have this attitude that it's wrong to be missing and it's uncomfortable, and you're self-conscious and you're looking around you. You don't want to, someone's going to film me missing. All these thoughts go through our head. But part of why this was designed is because it wants you to miss. It wants you to develop timing, reflexes, and staying balanced. And it's not like one of those things where the more that I focus, the harder I focus, the more I'm gonna hit, because if you have that attitude, it's just putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself, and it's just gonna be a stressful experience using the bag. Instead, you want to fail fast. You want to embrace the misses. I tell my clients all the time, you want to be missing. Tip number 3 is to focus on balance and footwork. I kind of touched on it on the last tip, but again, part of the experience using this Reflex bag is that you want to remain balanced at all times. And to do that, you need to be in a proper boxing stance, and you need to be aware of your footwork when you're moving around the bag. I have a video on stance. There's a lot of videos on stance out there. You want to think, when in doubt, you want to be on train tracks instead of a balance beam. If I'm on a balance beam on a straight line and I miss, I'm going to go tumbling over. But when I have my back foot out in front and I'm on train tracks, if I miss, I just stay balanced, and so I feel satisfied and I keep going. Okay, you're probably asking, are we ever gonna start hitting our bag? And the answer is yes. So number 4, when you start punching, the exciting part, it's okay to start softly. Start relaxed with your upper body and start punching your bag softly. A lot of times when we think boxing or we think punching, we wanna put our all into it. We wanna destroy the target, but when you're hitting a Reflex bag super hard, that's gonna recoil much faster. It makes everything more intense and harder, and it's okay to start softly. So here's a great drill to get started. Grab a timer, set it to 3 minutes. You can use your phone, maybe 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Give yourself some time to put your gloves on, and then we're just gonna spend this entire 3-minute round lightly tapping our bag. I call this the feel out drill. In boxing, they refer to it as the feel out rounds, because you're not going out there in round 1 and trying to knock out your opponent with your most powerful shots. You're just taking some time to study them, feel them out, get a sense of their movement and rhythm. It's the same idea here. It's a really great way to get started, and it also makes for a great warm-up down the road. And tip number 5 is to develop rhythm with one punch at a time before you start putting them together in boxing combinations. If I just walk up to this thing and start throwing hooks and uppercuts and trying to put together 10 punch combos, it's just gonna be really frustrating and make the experience much more difficult. The easiest way to develop rhythm with a Reflex bag is with one punch at a time. Number 1 is the jab. It is your lead straight. It's the arguably most important punch of boxing. You just start using your jab to develop a rhythm and start to understand the timing with your bag. Once you have timing down with the 1, you move on to the 2, which is the rear straight. And once you have control and you can keep a steady rhythm going one at a time, then you can start to move on to combinations. I would start with the 1-2. And then when you're ready to move up, you put them together and make it a 1-2-3. That should be your beginner combo with a Reflex bag, but it's all about working your way up and slow and steady growth over time. And that's gonna do it for these 5 key training tips. I hope they were helpful. Definitely subscribe to the channel for free boxing workouts once you start to get comfortable and develop a rhythm with your bag. And I hope I'll see you again real soon.